evening, February 2nd. I'm student meteorologist Shane Pendleton.
And I'm student meteorologist Margaret Hollis.
And we're on the second day of February and the second day of apparently springtime in February.
Yeah, it's been unseasonably warm these last couple of days.
Yep, we're checking in with a high of 77 degrees this afternoon in Tallahassee. So it's either February 2nd or April 2nd. You can take your pick because it feels like it could be either one of those.
Yeah, it does. Maybe over the next couple of days we'll be seeing some cooler temperatures. I hope so, that I enjoy those cooler temperatures a little bit.
Yeah, if you've already put away your winter gear, you might want to rethink that, or at least hang it outside your closet, because you might find it'll come in handy later in the week. But for today around campus, the main articles of clothing were shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops, and after about mid-afternoon, sunglasses came out too.
Yeah, I had the sunglasses out, and well, I know some people that wear shorts and flip-flops year-round.
Yes, so this is Florida, but if we're measuring the weather by the number of flip-flops we see on campus, we saw enough of them today to know that it was a warm one out there, and unseasonably so.
Yeah, it was great weather walking around campus today, that once those clouds cleared out, it looked a little dreary when we looked at those cloud cover.
Yes, but things are looking bright. Let's throw it out to the overview with Zach.
Yeah, it is pretty warm for this time of year. It's only the second day in February. Happy Groundhog's Day, everybody. The groundhog didn't see a shadow. That means possibility of an early spring. We'll see. It is a rodent after all. 75 in Tallahassee. Definitely felt like spring today. Under those mostly cloudy skies, still after the early morning dense fog we saw across the Tallahassee area and even into South Georgia, visibility was even down to basically nothing. Goose eggs earlier this morning. Since then it lifted out. We did see that afternoon sunshine. Most of our eastern half, you can see kind of a darker color. That is indicating those low-level clouds out to the western half of us. So it hasn't cleared out for everybody, but Leon County, we were right on the fringe right there in Tallahassee. Out to our west, there is that stronger stuff we will be talking about later on in the show. Cloudy tonight with those above average temperatures, 63 degrees. We'll be watching that increasing rain chance. That's what we're going to talk about, that rain for tomorrow, those cooler temps returning behind it, and a pleasant weekend. All that coming up in the show. We'll send it on back. Shane and Margaret.
Thanks, Zach. With it being Groundhog Day, that we were looking to see whether the groundhog saw a shadow, and he didn't. And the weather seems to be a little confused because he says that spring's coming, but with the cold front that we're going to be seeing coming through, it doesn't seem like it.
Yep, that's right. This morning in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, which is, as I understand it, just a few hours to the northeast of Pittsburgh in southwestern Pennsylvania, Punxsutawney Phil came out of his hole this morning. He did not see his shadow, so the forecast is that winter is over. And if we're judging by what we've seen the last 2 days here in Tallahassee, he'd seem to be right. But like Zach said, we're not sure where groundhogs get to their weather forecasts from, but that might not be in line with what we're going to tell you later tonight at FSU Weather.
Yeah, let's send it out to Jake for a look at the local and see what those temperatures are going to be doing over the next couple days.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Like you were saying, it is cooking out here. It had a high of 77 degrees today, 12 degrees above our average high of 65. Even starting to push the record up in the lower 80s, still 6 degrees below that. Not quite cracking the code yet, but we're getting there. Tallahassee currently 75 degrees, mostly cloudy. Still staying very warm out there with a dew point of 65 degrees, and the winds coming from the south-southeast at 6 miles an hour. That temperature changed right in front of my eyes. 73 now under partly cloudy skies. Starting to clear up a little bit. We're going to have some of that instability starting to kick in. Going to be setting up for a pretty active day around here tomorrow. Today's high temperature is a pretty interesting spread that we note here. High spot Perry at 84 degrees, pushing the record high down there. 65, however, in Apalachicola, as those clouds never really left. Tallahassee, though, is right in between, about 77 degrees, 73 over in Quincy. Current temperatures aren't much cooler. 78 here in Monticello, 82 still in Perry, still in the 80s. 67 down in St. Mark's, a little bit cooler near the water, 70 degrees in Quincy. As that satellite is showing, those clouds really fizzled out as the afternoon carried on. Not much to speak of over the rest of the area. Still partly cloudy, some low clouds hanging around, but nothing that's going to cause any kind of shower activity. I did feel some drizzle on the way to an exam earlier today. Futurecast rainfall is going to show a different trend, however. We see the green starting to move its way in as that front pushes its way towards the east, and that's going to create for a pretty active day. We're actually under a marginal risk of severe weather across the area tomorrow, so it's looking like could be pretty nasty out there with rain totals exceeding an inch in a lot of the areas, especially off to the west. Not quite there in Tallahassee, though, sitting at 0.99. As I was alluding to, if you want to go to the beach tomorrow, I would recommend you don't, just because it's going to be pretty active. Winds at 10 to 15 miles an hour. A little bit higher surf than usual, 3 to 5 feet. Water sitting at 56 degrees. That UV index is so low because of the approach of the clouds and thunderstorms throughout the day tomorrow. Tonight's forecast, we're looking at still a pretty warm night, 63 degrees under cloudy skies, staying significantly above average, over 10 degrees above. Winds coming out of the southeast at 10 miles per hour. It's going to fuel in some of that Gulf moisture and, again, begin to set up for some shower and thunderstorm activity for the day tomorrow, some of which may be severe. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. 73 degrees for a high. Again, rain throughout much of the day. Winds coming out of the south at 10 miles per hour. That's eventually going to change direction as we move into the later into the week. As we see right here in our 7-day outlook, Thursday the rain chances are going to be sticking around with a high of 60 degrees, 70% chance of rain, but that's going to be tapering off as we go later into the day. But as the cold front moves its way through, it's going to be looking like a gorgeous, gorgeous day on Friday with a high of 59 degrees, low of 37. It's going to be staying pretty consistent throughout much of the week. That's all I have for your first local. Let's take it out to Zach with a look at the southeast.
Yeah, it is warm, warm, warm. 77 in Orlando and 77 down in Miami. I'll get on screen in just a second, but I do want to draw your attention to portions of the upper left-hand corner where there is such a sharp temperature gradient. That is actually where some of the severe weather is starting to push through. In fact, some tornado warnings starting to pop up in portions of Alabama, also Mississippi. We'll get to that in just a second across the southeast. Very warm. For here in Tallahassee, we've got a lot of dry weather still associated with basically all this orange dry air. You can see some moisture starting to pop up in these upper levels of the atmosphere about midway up. That's what's representing that water vapor, that green across portions of Alabama and Mississippi. Again, we're watching severe weather as we go to our satellite and radar. All these storms kind of popping up. They're what we like to call impulse storms, I should say. These impulse storms kind of pop up and just continue moving on and then turn into supercell storms. We've got a lot more coverage of that coming up in your national with Jake. He's going to talk all about that, but let's time this out heading towards portions of Tallahassee, also areas of, say, Georgia and South Carolina over the next couple of days. Notice this line, just really sharp line, cold front moving right on through Montgomery and Atlanta overnight tonight, even into early tomorrow morning. This is 9 a.m., some heavier bands of rainfall. Good news for portions of Tallahassee, the Big Bend, South Georgia regions. We aren't expecting much severe weather. Now, we are under a marginal risk for severe weather with the main threat being straight line winds, but that's still a 5% chance. There's a lot of ingredients that aren't really setting up for this. So again, expect more so heavy rains than any severe weather outbreak tomorrow. Again, that line continues to push through around rush hour heading home tomorrow through the Tallahassee and South Georgia communities such as Thomasville, Valdosta, portions of Bainbridge as well, and Cairo. That's where we're going to see a lot of that heavier rain form up. But notice even some snow starting to move in towards portions of the Appalachians near Tennessee, North Carolina, even portions of Kentucky and West Virginia. That's how cold it is behind. So when Shane and Margaret were talking about it's not going to necessarily feel like spring, we're talking about winter returning right behind that front. There's that sharp contrast tonight. 67 in Tallahassee and Orlando, 70s down south, 30s behind the front. Tomorrow, much colder day for portions of the southeast, in the 50s and 60s, 80s still in Florida. We'll send it back to the desk. Shane and Margaret.
Thanks, Zach. And now we're going to give you some weather history. First off, a real oddity for February. Back in 1952, we had a tropical storm in South Florida.
That's impressive. Usually it's rare for anything tropical to form before we get into hurricane season in June.
That's right, but in 1952, a tropical storm moved out of the Gulf of Mexico across South Florida with your typical storm ingredients, 60-mile-per-hour winds, 2 to 4 inches of rain. But in 1990, the setup was very similar to today, where we had a band of severe thunderstorms associated with a cold front moving across the lower Mississippi Valley.
That must have been an interesting thing, and I'm curious about whether people remember that was this day, if that storm system was large enough.
Yep, there were tornadoes and hail of up to 3 inches in diameter reported in southern Louisiana. And now for more on the severe weather across the nation, here's Jake.
Thanks a lot, guys. We had a lot to talk to in terms of severe weather. Like you were saying, hail and tornadoes are a certain possibility down in the southeast. Current temperatures across much of the country, we see this very sharp gradient through much of the middle of the country, extending down from Chicago, down through northern Texas, 21 in Denver. You go to the east side, 67 in Memphis, where a lot of that activity is located. Satellite and radar, as it fires up, we're going to see this very tight spin throughout much of the upper Midwest. It's going to be drawing some snow up into Minneapolis and into parts of Wisconsin, and moving some rainfall in towards Illinois, into Michigan. But something that is really going to be a concern for tonight is going to be this area of cloud cover through Mississippi and Alabama. There's those storms. Some pretty nasty stuff firing up in Mississippi, starting to move its way into Alabama. And as I'll talk about a little bit later, we actually do have a tornado warning. It's active in western Alabama. Airport delays, 53 minutes in Chicago. It's a pretty active situation there, although nothing severe to speak of. Across the rest of the country, pretty quiet in terms of the delays, but it's going to be ramping up throughout much of the night as these storms begin to propagate their way eastward into some of the more populated regions. Here we go. We have a lot of advisories to talk about, starting with this blizzard warning extending from down south of Minneapolis, down through Sioux Falls, South Dakota, extending near Lincoln and Omaha. Those are just about on the fringe, even down into parts of northwestern Kansas. The pink areas represent winter storm warnings. That includes some more populated areas like Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, and Green Bay, Wisconsin. On the blue, sorry, the purple imagery is the winter storm advisories, winter weather advisories that are on some of the fringe areas of these winter storm warnings. And we see this very tight spin located in Nebraska and Iowa, pushing the snow up into parts of Minnesota. Let me step out of the way here so you can see some of this rainfall that's moving in towards Chicago and in Detroit now. So pretty nasty stuff out there. Nothing severe, but there's been lots of snowfall associated with it. So once those areas get cooler, it's going to be a pretty interesting situation to monitor. Here is where the primary focus is in terms of the tornado activity. Lots of tornado watches. This one, including Nashville and Huntsville and Birmingham, is active until 11 o'clock Central Time. We do have an active tornado warning down in Pickens County in west central Alabama. That's moving in towards Tuscaloosa pretty soon, so Crimson Tide out there, please stay careful. Now, Futurecast is going to be showing this rainfall beginning to push its way off towards the east, down all the way from Ontario through New Orleans. That's going to extend into the Tallahassee region as we go through the day on Wednesday. Snowfall continuing to impact parts of the Great Lakes as well, so it's going to be a pretty nasty situation really throughout the entire eastern third of the country. That's going to continue on into Wednesday night as the storms begin to push their way outwards. Tonight's forecast staying warm throughout much of the east, 56 New Orleans, but that cold front is going to make things a lot cooler into Kansas City. Tomorrow's forecast staying warm throughout much of the southeast as well, but again, as that cold front moves out, a lot cooler temperatures through much of the western two-thirds of the country. So that's all I have for your national outlook. Let's take it back into Tallahassee with Matt.
All right, thank you, Jake. I'm loving the khaki pants today. I think everyone else is going to love them as well. Brought out the khakis for those 70s. Gorgeous out there. A little bit cloudy as well. The clouds have been increasing today ahead of the next frontal system that Jake was talking about just a little bit. Here's what was going on around the Big Bend region, even parts of Georgia and Alabama we're looking at as well. 70s and upper 60s across most of the region. We almost squeaked out a couple 80s in some areas as well. So the warmth is definitely here, but it's not gonna last very long, and we'll just kind of expand our view and take a look at the satellite and radar. You can see these darker shades here on the satellite indicating those clouds that really, they've been a lot of higher clouds in the atmosphere, but now we're starting to see some showers pop up on radar as well. Very quick moving showers, and those quick moving showers, especially in parts of Mississippi, some of them are starting to rotate and create a few tornadoes. Now, we talked about that a little bit, but how's this going to impact our local weather? Well, one of which is the winds. We have these winds really starting to pick up out of much of the south and southeast. 6 here in Tallahassee, not as high as elsewhere. Panama City, you're on the coast. Pensacola, you're closer to the coast as well, 17 miles per hour. Now look at this, in Meridian out in Mississippi, 23 miles per hour. So the winds are going to pick up, as well as the dew point right ahead of this cold front. That's kind of a recipe for the leading edge of a cold front. Here's what we've got right now. Really, 60s across Tallahassee, Georgia. It's all pretty much uniform across the southeast. Now, this is a fairly comfortable dew point. It's not oppressive like we do see within the 70-degree mark or the 80-degree mark with these dew points. But in the 60-degree mark, we're talking about really comfortable conditions for this time of year. Now, the humidity is a different story, though. Look at this, Pensacola, 93% relative humidity. This is how much the water vapor the atmosphere can hold. The higher the value, the more water vapor in the atmosphere. 76% here in Tallahassee. That's what we're looking at. Now, let's break this thing down hour by hour because we're looking Tuesday night. This is just after the show here. As this cold front starts to move on in towards our area. New Orleans gets a little bit of it first, then it moves into Mobile, and now over into Pensacola. This is early tomorrow morning. Our in-house models are showing a bit of a squall line developing and moving towards our area. So we will watch this for a possibility of some strong winds and really heavy rain over in the afternoon tomorrow. This is 4 p.m., right around the time this will start to move through. Could be a rainy afternoon tomorrow evening, and cooler temperatures will be to follow that as well. Cloud cover starting to move on out, and that'll push through Thursday and into Friday, starting to create a nice weekend, also bringing back those cooler temperatures. Now, how cool? Well, right now, let's get through tonight. 63 tonight, kind of a warm evening from what we've been seeing over the past few days. And then let's look at that day planner for tomorrow. If you're waking up for those 8 a.m.s, you might see a little bit of fog again like we did this morning. And then our 5-day forecast, check in with us Wednesday and Thursday, transition days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Looks like the rain chances come back up once again on Sunday, but Friday, going to be a gorgeous day as well. Really a nice forecast, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing, but once we get through the cold, miserable day that will be tomorrow, I think that we'll enjoy the weather a little bit more.
Yeah, we're just, watching that storm system move through Wednesday, also possibly lingering into Thursday. But otherwise, a very nice second half of that 7-day forecast. Cooler conditions, but sunny. I don't think you can really complain for the weekend.
Nope, not at all. And one thing that you and I will be talking about a little bit later is sports. Of course, it's Tuesday.
Yep.
Just a teaser of that real quick.
Yeah, NHL, we will talk about that in just a second. Probably my favorite sport. Actually, it is my favorite sport. And talk about my favorite team and also talking about your favorite team who are facing off tonight. We're going to talk all about that in just a second.
It's going to be heated.
Yeah, it is going to be a very heated 4 minutes. We'll send it out. Actually, we're being told not to send it out. Hold on.
That's okay.
All right, now we're telling to be send it out. We're going to send it out to Shane with a little tomfoolery at the wall. Shane, what's going on? All right, so we're going to just, for 1 second, Shane's having some mic issues. Let's talk very briefly about what's going to happen at this desk. What are the two teams playing tonight?
Well, we have the Washington Capitals.
My team.
That's it. And the Florida Panthers, which are surprisingly good this year.
All right, so we've got a lot of that coming up. We're going to try this again. Shane, I believe you're at the wall.
All right, guys, we've got the satellite and radar for the state of Florida. I believe you can hear me now, so let's get right down to it. We don't have much going on across the Sunshine State. A few showers moving in. They're near Pensacola right now, but what I want to talk about first are the winds. These are all coming up out of the south and east, a little bit strong along the coast of West Palm Beach and Miami, and those are pushing up warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. That's why it's felt so warm today. But there's not a lot of rain with that. We can see the entire state of Florida is under these shades of orange, which have nothing to do with the Gators or the University of Miami. It's indicating a lot of dry air way up above our heads. So we saw a few clouds today, but there was no rain in them. So we didn't accumulate anything in our rain gauges today. That's not going to be the case for quite a while, though. We're going to see rain moving into the region. It's already begun there. Near Pensacola, they had some sea breeze showers, a few locally heavy thunderstorms in their area today. I'm just going to fly through the panhandle right now because there's really nothing to see. Just a few pop-up showers, a little radar interference on there. But from Jacksonville to Miami, the story is no rain today. But let's talk about what's on its way through. This is that cold front everyone's been talking about, and it's going to march its way eastward into Florida, dousing Pensacola through Mariana tomorrow morning around 10 a.m. coming into our region after lunchtime and staying for dinner, and making the evening commute a bit of a headache. And by the evening hours tomorrow, it will be moving on out of the Tallahassee region, finally clearing out of here. Now tonight we're going to get down to a low of 67 in Tallahassee, 65 in Jacksonville, only down into the lower 70s in Miami, 73 tonight. And as for tomorrow, we're going to climb up to 78 degrees in Tallahassee, a steamy 85 degrees in West Palm Beach, after which temperatures will begin to drop off. But here's Matt and Zach with their sports segment.
Well, thank you, Shane. I've got the pen out, I've got the paper out, I've got the computer out.
Come on, yep.
It's that time of week. It's
Yep.
Tuesday. It's time to talk about some sports.
Time to talk about sports. Let's start off. First off, congratulations. You guys have made it to my favorite series, hockey series. We're going to talk all about hockey, break it down. Let's start off with the player leaderboards. We just finished the All-Star break. All-Star game was this past weekend in Nashville. The Predators leading. So let's take a look at the first half of the season. Patrick Kane up there already twice in points and goals. 73 points, 30 goals, leading the league in goals. Might I add, Alex Ovechkin, a Capital, two spots behind Patrick Kane in goals with 28. But that save percentage with Micah Norvith up there at .99 or 933%. That's a huge percentage. Brayden Holtby leads the league with 30 wins so far. Now, what do you think about that? We have Jake in studio right now giving us time cues. He is a diehard Chicago fan, loving Patrick Kane up there.
Oh, absolutely. Patrick Kane has always been this fire of a player, and really every time we're talking about big numbers, Patrick Kane is always going to be on that list. And, of course, Jake's going to be happy about that one. Because Blackhawks, got something to be happy about.
Big numbers from a small man. Not sure if you saw the All-Star game. Patrick Kane actually trying to start a fight with the big man, John Scott there. That's another story for another day. Of course, a great All-Star game this past weekend in Nashville. We take it to our team stats, though, and my lovely team, the Washington Capitals, up there not only in power play percentage, 26.8, but we're also there in goals in game. Now, I must say, Anaheim Ducks just barely beat out the Capitals. Capitals are number 2 in penalty kill, 89.2%, the league average at 81.2. Otherwise, the Capitals doing well. The Panthers, your team right there, goals against per game, 2.18, the lowest in the league. Pretty good job for the Panthers, especially late in the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. The Panthers are really, the defining moment about them is that they're a young team. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of early draft picks over the last few years. They haven't been the best, and I think that's starting to pay off now this year. We're seeing what a young team and a very talented team can do.
And we're talking about tonight's game.
Yeah, we're getting right into that here. Washington Capitals and Panthers. Now, Ovechkin going to be out for this one.
Alex Ovechkin out for this one. After our last game prior to the All-Star break, came out saying he will not participate in the NHL All-Star game, trying to get healthy. Per league rules, as he's being a scratch player, he has to sit out the next game. That would be tonight. Stephen Gallev getting the start tonight against the Florida Panthers on that first line. Barry Trotz thinking he's the guy to fit in. And there's a cool stat between both him and the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. The coach of the Florida Panthers, Coach Gerard, of course, he coached Gallev back for 3 years back in Junior Hockey League. Interesting.
St. John's in the QMJHL, that's Quebec Montreal Junior Hockey League, back when he was a junior player prior to the NHL draft. But huge game there tonight. The starting lineups for the Caps, that's going to be Gallev, Backey, Oshie, Niskanen, Alzner, and both backup goalies. Grubauer starting for the Caps. Who's starting for the Panthers?
Panthers, we've got Luongo is going to be coming in later in the game. He was in the All-Star game. Montoya is going to be starting for him as well. We've got all the big guys out there, Huberdeau, Barkov, Ekblad, even, of course, the older guy as well, and not going to be in this one. Eric Gudbranson as well is going to be in that one.
Going to be some good games. Alex Ovechkin makes his return this Thursday against the New York Islanders. That game tonight, though, Caps, Panthers, starts NBCSN, 7:30 p.m.
All right. Send it back out to Margaret now to look at our weather one more time.
Thanks, guys. I haven't watched hockey before, but the way you're talking about it, it sounds like it's pretty exciting to watch. Here around the Big Bend area, 73 in Tallahassee, lower 70s as we move further to the west, and gets a bit warmer as we move east, 77 in both Perry and Valdosta. Pretty nice temperatures overall. Satellite and radar, unless you're looking very carefully, you're not going to see much. There are some clouds here if you look carefully for those darker gray shaded areas, those are just those light clouds that we've been seeing all day. Nothing too much to dampen the day. Winds, though, those are all coming out of the south at various speeds. 6 and 7 miles an hour is pretty common between Quincy, Monticello, Tallahassee, and St. Mark's. A bit stronger down on the Gulf, down in Apalachicola, but overall moderate winds coming out of the south, and those winds are bringing in these really high humidity levels here at the surface. We got 76% relative humidity here in Tallahassee, 100% down at Carabel and Apalachicola on the coast. It's pretty humid, and when you and this is all coming in with this front that, not much here right now, but keep an eye on this line of storms as it makes its way through Alabama. As we get into tomorrow, they're going to be making their way here, and they're going to be dumping rain, and there's going to be potential for a bit of lightning and heavy rain. So do keep your eyes and ears open for any sort of alerts that may come through on any weather radios, apps, weather app notifications, as we've been talking about over the last couple of days, just to be aware of any severe potentials that may be out there. If you wanted to go out to the beach tomorrow, it's not the day for that. With winds 15 to 20 knots and waves at 3 to 5 feet, it's going to be choppy, it's going to be rainy. It is not a beach day unless you just happen to be going to, say, a beach house and reading a book indoors with a nice cup of coffee or hot chocolate. Tonight, though, just clouds around here, no rain yet, lower to mid 60s across the entire viewing area, with 63 here in Tallahassee, as well as in St. Mark's. Light winds at 10 miles an hour. Tomorrow, though, that rain will be arriving, 73 here in Tallahassee, and surrounding areas not varying all that much from that temperature. We're going to be seeing 73 in Monticello, Quincy, and Bainbridge as well. So it's not going to be too cold, but it will be rainy, so get those rain boots, umbrellas, and raincoats out. As we move into the week ahead, though, don't pack up all your winter gear yet, because once that rain clears out, Friday we'll be seeing some beautiful temperatures with a high of 59 and a low of 37. Similarly, over the weekend, it's going to be another great weekend for getting out and going and doing stuff. What are your guys' weekend plans?
Actually, the Capitals play this weekend, and it's another national game. So I'll be watching that. We take on the New Jersey Devils there.
I haven't even thought about my weekend plans yet. It's only Tuesday here, but we're almost to hump day. Wednesday's tomorrow. And
Yep.
Of course, we got to get through the Panthers-Capitals game. I'm really excited about that. You better be out there to watch it with me.
I'm trying. I've got some work. We were discussing while she was at the wall. Got some work. Got to get it done, but I'm going to be rushing out there. It's going to be a huge game, NBCSN.
Yep, it'll be there as well. And we're going to talk about that 7-day one more time before we go off air for tonight.
Check it out. Rain moving through Wednesday, Thursday. Again, we are under a marginal risk for severe weather. The main threats, just straight line winds with that squall line. It looks to be timing to move through around 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow during that rush hour. But behind it, very nice conditions. Just a slight rain chance going into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, but 60s.
It's going to be
plus 70.
Yeah, going to be a gorgeous weekend, a little bit warm too, with the clouds moving in. And of course, we're all over social media yourself. You've got your personal accounts. I've got my personal accounts.
There it is, Facebook, Twitter. We've got the personal accounts for the show too at FSU Weather. You can always follow us anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, live stream as well, FSU Weather.
And we're also on Instagram if you want to see us there too. But we've got another show tomorrow, and we'll see you there.
We'll see you there. Have a good night for everybody here. See you tomorrow.